On today's show, Ryan Leonard's great start with Boston College and Michael Sgarbossa's big role with the Caps.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minute Cast, available wherever you find your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about the Capitals' great start thus far and ultimately what is behind it. You take a look at this season and a lot of the insiders, the ones that think they know the sport the best, said the Capitals won't be very good this season. Even some of my fellow Locked On hosts said, Dan, we don't know how to tell you this, but the Capitals are not going to be that good this season. How are they proving the skeptics wrong? I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'll talk about the key role of Michael Sgarbossa on this year's Capitals team. And just a soldier, knows his role, has spent time playing with the Hershey Bears and the Capitals, and is no stranger to playing in the NHL. What is behind his success and why is he so important to the Capitals? But just to get it going here, we'll talk about the bright young star known as Ryan Leonard, who is going to be one of the faces of the franchise in the future, and his standout performance at Boston College. And to be clear here, one of my players in the future that I'm looking most forward to seeing what he has on the big stage. There was a lot of talk about if he was going to join the Capitals towards the tail end of last season and help them in the playoffs, and also questions about if he was going to join the Capitals this season. Had a tough decision to make. He had to talk to his brother, who also, as you know, plays hockey as well, and ultimately decided that he wanted to play his sophomore season for Boston College. And one of the things that I've talked about on this show doesn't necessarily make sense to me as a 47-year-old guy. Why would you want to forego playing in the NHL? Why give that all up to play at Boston College? You could jet set right to the Capitals, all the money, all the trappings that go along with being an NHL player. But what did he say? He said he wanted an opportunity to help Boston College in their pursuit in the playoffs and winning the championship, and also another crack at playing on the world stage. But he has been lighting it up thus far, playing at Boston College. And that's what we're going to do today. Dive into a standout performance of Leonard, who's really heating things up in his sophomore season. Of course, just a little backstory on him. If you are not too familiar, playing for Boston College, he was drafted 8th overall by the Capitals in the 2023 NHL entry draft. And it was an interesting draft in the 2023 season. There was talk about that it could be Matvei Michkov. Some people said Benson potentially. But ultimately, I think the Capitals picked just the right person, or they selected the perfect person in Ryan Leonard. What I'm going to go ahead and say, a prototypical Capitals player, a guy that plays with a little bit of snarl, but has a really great skill set, and make no mistake about it, is going to be huge for the Capitals next season. There's a chance, I guess, they could join the team towards the tail end of the season, but what we know for sure, at least what he has said thus far, is that he plans on joining the Capitals next season. You think the Capitals are good now? Wait till they have Leonard on the team, and maybe Crystal. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but exciting to think about. So let's talk about his time playing for Boston College and what he's doing at 19 years old, has scored goals in consecutive games, contributing offensively. And one of the players that people ask, they're like, well, he's going to join the team next year. Where could he possibly fit? I think that a good fit for him would be on the right wing, of course. I know that he has played different forward positions, but I see him on the right wing. And what is some of the things that I know is that Mangiapane is under a 1-year contract. Good player. Ultimately, I think, of course, the Capitals have a better option in Ryan Leonard. That right now is kind of my knee-jerk reaction where I see him fitting. But talking about in his games here recently, just the last game, he netted the game-winning goal against 5th-ranked Maine during Boston College's impressive 3-0 victory. And if you take a look at Boston College, it is kind of a hockey plant or hockey farm there where they just churn out really great hockey players. And, that's what I think it is. I think when you take a look at Ryan Leonard, he likes that opportunity to play for Boston College because it is elite at that level. And I think at the end of the day, at his age, he's just enjoying himself playing hockey with guys his age. And ultimately, that helped the Eagles complete a 2-game sweep of the Black Bears. So just off to a great start. And, I guess a cautionary tale, or I think to temper expectations, is that he might not necessarily get that same production with the Capitals. He might, but in any event, he is lighting it up for Boston College. So now let's break down his current season's performance. In the first 8 games of this season, Leonard has racked up 8 points, 5 goals, and 3 assists. So definitely knocking it out of the park, and that goal-scoring fuel that the Capitals are going to be looking for in the future. And they're going to need it because Alex Ovechkin is going to be here this season. He's going to be here the season after. But after that, well, that's all he's under contract for. The Capitals are looking for that goal-scoring fuel in the future. He's consistently playing on the right wing for the Eagles top line, partnering with players like Perreault and James Higgins. So some elite company that he's playing with. And oftentimes, just like in the NHL, when you surround yourself by great players, sometimes it helps your game as well. But talking about his teammate Higgins, by the way, is being touted as the consensus number 1 overall draft pick for 2025. Isn't that something that he has really had some great luck playing with some truly young talent? And I think that's ultimately going to help grow his game. So this scoring streak is a great sign for Leonard, especially after a slower start last season. There was some chatter out there. Did the Capitals select the right guy? Is this the right guy for the job? But as we know, turned on the Jets in the latter part of the season. But, just let's take a look back. Remember, he set a school record for 31 goals and shot an impressive 18.5%. But right now, Leonard is shooting at 10.9% this season, having taken 46 shots in just those 8 games. So he is getting production. And that's a remarkable statistic, really, considering it represents over a quarter, 27.4% of his total shots from last year. So to say that he is ramping up, to say that he is getting to be a better player, that is an understatement. And it's fascinating to see how he's adjusting and sharpening his skills this season. I think speaks volumes of his raw talent and ultimately what he is going to be in the future. But talking about his highlight reel, another highlight for Leonard this year is that he's already recorded 3 game-winning goals. That's exciting to think about as well, that finding the back of the net for the Capitals, in my mind, in a Capitals jersey, it definitely gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling. That number is half of what he achieved last season. And what it shows really is his ability to perform when it matters the most. And that is what I think is a positive sign for me, that he is going to be that player, that he can answer the bell under high pressure situations, game-winning goals. When all eyes are on you, that's a lot of pressure. That is kind of indicative or what will tell what kind of NHL player that he could potentially be. But on a broader team level, let's talk about Boston College's success if you are not a fan of that team. Their victories against Maine have extended their game-winning streak to 6 games, which is quite impressive. And it is a great team, and that is why so many great players come out of there. And get this, though, they currently hold the best defensive record in the nation, allowing just an average of 1.25 goals per game through their first 8 games. So excitement. Talk about a team that knows how to lock it down on defense. Just quite something. So I think that when you take a look at his time with Boston College, again, as a Capitals fan, I'm a bit bummed out that he's not on the team right now. But at the end of the day, he made the right decision for himself. He's a young guy. He, wants to get another crack at a national championship playing for Boston College and another crack potentially at playing on the international stage. A lot of excitement around him. And as a Capitals fan, I cannot wait for next season. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Mike Sgarbossa's big role for the Capitals and the Bears and how he's a Swiss Army knife, if you will, for a team, a guy that is a soldier. When called up, delivers, and that was evident in the last game that we saw him play. Let's break it all down next. The World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can help you find the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. You invest so much time to take care of yourself and to be the healthiest, best version of you. Select Quote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. And there is a lot of football that's played on any given Sunday or Monday or Thursday, and some of those games you're more into and some of them you're not. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same place where you place your bet. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team. Every day you can find me over on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the whole show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. So in this next segment here, we're going to talk about Michael Sgarbossa and how he is the perfect guy, a true soldier for this team. Spends the majority of his time playing with the AHL Hershey Bears, but has been a big contributor when needed. And ultimately, my early assessment on Sgarbossa is that could he potentially be a better option at that third line center over Hendrix Lapierre. Again, it is a smaller sample size, but he is a veteran, and we have seen kind of so-so play from Hendrix Lapierre that it's interesting to see what kind of role this will grow into for Sgarbossa. But Sgarbossa, who's had quite a roller coaster of a season from alternating between the NHL, as we know, and the AHL to making significant contributions. His story is of one of resilience and hard work, spending a lot of time playing between the AHL and the NHL. He is no stranger to playing on the big stage. But just talking about his season so far, Sgarbossa began the season with the Bears, of course, the AHL affiliate, where he played a pivotal role after a strong finish to last season with the Caps. He got the call up on October 28th. Kind of the next man up mentality, always ready to go. He made his mark in games on the 29th and the 31st, stepping up for Hendrik Slop here, who was a healthy scratch for a couple games. And a lot of kind of questions around Hendrik Slop here, as well as Spencer Carberry has said that maybe he needs to watch this game from the press box to reset, Control Alt Delete so many times you're going to crash the hard drive. Is that the best thing for Hendrik Slop here? And what does this mean for him and Sgarbossa in the bigger picture? It's always interesting to see how he plays and how these players adapt when opportunities arise. And some players, it's not seamless. I take a look at Dylan McIlrath getting called up was perfect, and ultimately why he still has a role on this team. Sgarbossa, to an extent, kind of falls in a similar category. But rising and falling with the injuries after Matt Roy returned to the lineup. Sgarbossa was sent to Hershey. We remember that. But with the injuries piling up, they needed help. He's been recalled once again to help the Capitals with Sonny Milano on the IR. It looks like Scarbossa's position is secure for now. Something we'll definitely need to keep an eye on. What does this mean once the injured players return? What does this mean when Sonny Milano comes back? A lot of questions on that third line in particular. Sonny Milano, Jacob Vrana, back and forth. You take a look at Hendrik Slop here and Sgarbossa kind of mixing it up there. And Mangiapane is kind of the constant on that third line. So it's interesting to see how this all shakes out. And I think at the end of the day, they put Mangiapane on that third line to kind of be that spark plug to get the offense going. But as far as Sgarbossa is concerned, I want more. I want to see more. As in the last game, he was involved in scoring opportunities and really looked like he fit in. I think that's one of the big things when you get an opportunity is to look like you fit in. And I definitely think he did just that. But talking about his experience, when I said he was no stranger, for those of you that might not know, Sgarbossa is 32 years old, so definitely not a spring chicken, if you will, an undrafted center from Ontario. He's been with the Capitals organization for parts of 7 seasons and holding the faith. 32 years old, kind of like I said, McIlrath, never losing focus and just waiting for his opportunity and always been huge. Honestly, all things considered, I don't ever think he's been a liability, and I think is what is making a tough decision for Spencer Carberry on what to do with him when Milano comes back. So he's not a household name, I guess I'm going to say, kind of a unique last name, but his contributions, like I say, cannot be overlooked. He plays a critical role in the team, adding depth and experience, especially in crucial moments. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens on that third line. I think you take a look at the first, second, and fourth line, all things considered, pretty set. I don't think there's a lot of question marks there, but that third line, there is still some questions surrounding him. But statistical highlights this season, Sgarbossa played in 7 games with the Bears, racking up 1 goal and 8 assists. It says here when he's been with the Capitals, he's added another goal and an assist in just 3 games. So making the most of your opportunities, that is what you must do. And it's true in any sport. You take a look at a quarterback and sometimes the backup getting an opportunity because the other guy was injured. Think of Brady, for example, with the Patriots. Thinking of the Packers and Rodgers and Favre and these players that get opportunities, an injured player presents an opportunity for someone else. In this case, Sgarbossa, it's not just football. Those are 2 quick examples that come to mind. But when you're taking a look at hockey, it is sometimes, wow, I didn't realize we had that in that player. I want to get a longer look. I think that potentially could be the case for Sgarbossa. But NHL fans should note Scarbossa's ability to maintain a point per game in the AHL, having scored 25 points in 93 NHL games through his impressive 12-year career. So quite a player, and really a good player to have in your back pocket if you need it. And, it's not just, a call-up. He does add depth and grit and bolsters the Capitals' third line and ultimately allows Spencer Carberry some flexibility to adjust to his lineup. And, there's, nothing can, a limit if he gets called up and sent down, that if they want to get another look at Hendrix Lapierre and say that doesn't work, then you could put Sgarbossa in there. But ultimately, I think the Capitals should come to terms with who is going to be the best fit at that third line center position. That's a crucial aspect for any team, especially as the season grinds on. So a lot of questions, like I talked about the third line. You take a look at Milano. You take a look at Vrana, Sgarbossa, Lapierre. Not a whole lot of question with Mangiapane. A lot of balls in the air as they say, what is it going to be for Sgarbossa? At the end of the day, I'm happy he's on this team, knocks it out of the park for the Hershey Bears, and always makes the most of his opportunity on the big team. There is a lot to love about his game. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, we'll talk about in the recent games here, who's really stood out for the good and for the bad, and who could use some more work. I'll discuss next. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in place even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineups live. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 bet. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 bet. Let's use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. So what players are standing out for the Capitals? What is behind their success? That is oftentimes a question that I'm asked, being that I host a show for the Capitals. But let's talk about that. Let's put a spotlight. Let's put the laser pointer on this team. Weaknesses, strengths, those types of things. So this week was a standout for Capitals. The top line, in particular, Alex Ovechkin, Dylan Strome, and Alexei Protas really stole the show. I think you could say that. Alex Ovechkin is on a great clip and could very well pass Gretzky this season. Can you believe I'm going to say that out loud? I just did. And that's due in large part to a great center in Dylan Strome, a guy that was kind of put on the scrap heap, by the Chicago Blackhawks. Their loss has been the Capitals' gain. And Alexei Protas as well. So you take a look at it, combining for 4 goals and 11 points across 3 games. Strome led the charge with 5 assists, showing off his incredible playmaking skills with some jaw-dropping feeds. Questions, it was one of the things that Alex Ovechkin had said is that he lacked chemistry with the centers that he's played with. I think that he has found the perfect match in Dylan Strome. So I think when you take a look at Strome's creativity on the ice, he's a playmaker. And again, I referenced last season that he led the team in goals to start the season. Always involved in scoring opportunities, a good playmaker, and a guy that's filling a vital role in Nick Backstrom's absence. And just, I think we all know that Nick Backstrom very well is not going to ever play a hockey game again. It's reassuring and a good thing that they have a guy like Strome that seems to have such a great chemistry and rapport with the grade 8. But not just that. Let's talk about a player that's been a bit surprising. And it really shouldn't be a surprise, as there was a lot of hopes, always have been a lot of hopes, but this year is the year that Connor McMichael has really stepped into his own. So let's move on to Connor McMichael, and let's just say what a week he had. He added 3 goals to his already impressive season total, is what I would say, keeping pace with Ovechkin at 10 goals each. It's really, I'm going to say, incredible to see him building off last season's performance, where he totaled just 18 goals. His growth this season seems to come from a blend, like I've said, of confidence, physical maturity, and skill enhancement. He's put the work in. The confidence is one of the biggest things I would circle, that I think that he believes now that he can score goals. He doesn't need to feed it to someone else. He knows that he can do it and is projected to do truly great things for this team. Maturity, bulked up a little bit, put on some muscle mass, so he is not going to be driven off the puck so easy. And he's playing on a big line with Dubois and Wilson, that even though he is not quite as big as those two guys, still has been huge. And his skills are next level. And that's the biggest thing for me, is to just see how much he's progressed in the last couple seasons here. Really taken great steps forward. And, the person and the organization, I guess I'm going to say, that deserves some of the most credit is the Hershey Bears. Really developing players, and really has helped turn some of this young talent, in this example, Connor McMichael, into some next level talent. So it's not just the forwards. Rasmus Sandin has been huge. He has been a liability at points this season, but all things considered has been playing great as of late. He's really stepped up this week in particular, scoring his first 2 goals of the season, and positioning himself as a key player for the team. Leading defense and crucial metrics like even strength Corsi for percentage and expected goals for percentage. All of those metrics he is excelling at, which shows he's not just contributing offensively, but also doing his part on his bread and butter on the defensive side of things. So a key acquisition for this team, that is for sure. And I think a vital piece in the future figures to be in the Capitals' long-term plans on the blue line, as they made some big additions in Chychrun and Roy. He is one of the younger players that I think is going to fit a long-term role and a long-term answer on the blue line. What else has worked? Discipline and penalty kill performance. The Caps did a fantastic job with discipline, is what I'm going to say. That's the maturity coming in, racking up only 7 penalties. Their PK was stellar, neutralizing every power play opportunity against them, plus their ability to draw penalties while shorthanded showcase strategic play even when they were outnumbered. So, the PP hasn't been stellar, but the PK is humming right along. So what does the disciplined approach say about the team's overall mentality? Is it's just a more well-rounded team over last year's team. Better players. That's the biggest thing of note. I think that Dubois, it's interesting just to talk about him here for a moment, is that I've heard a lot of people say, hey, he's not the player you thought he was. He's not exactly lighting up the score sheet, but getting involved, making Connor McMichael that much better, along with Tom Wilson, that those big additions. So I'm going to talk about Dubois. I'm going to talk about Chychrun and Roy and Logan Thompson. This is a much different team than last season. And the next thing I'm going to talk about here is a bit curious, as it is generally pretty lights out for the Capitals, but the fourth line hasn't quite found its rhythm just yet. They've only contributed a single goal in a week where the team scored 13 goals. Given the offensive firepower at their disposal, it's been a bit of a lackluster performance. But, with Dowd, Duhaime, and Radish, I don't think that we need to worry about it too much. It's just things are going to ebb. They're going to flow. And all things considered, this team, painting it with a broad brush, is playing very, very well. A lot to be excited about. Of course, there's things that need to get cleaned up. The PP still needs to take it to the next level. The third line needs to get solidified, come to terms with who is ultimately going to be your third line center. Again, for me, Sgarbossa is a front runner. and those kind of things. That's what the Capitals need to work on as they prepare to take on the Maple Leafs here soon. So a lot of excitement surrounds the team, and for me, I'm loving what I'm seeing thus far. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals and making it your first listen of the day. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.